Welcome back, loyal fight fans, to Boxing. Eat that shit up. I am Tom O'Neill, aka Tummy Tom O'Neill, the body snatcher, the body stabber, baby mama grabber. And if you help us out, we can climb this ladder. Hit that subscribe button for us. All right, so we didn't make picks. We didn't make picks for this last weekend of fights. As I said, I wasn't going to. The UFC card, it was all right. You know, it was nothing too spectacular, and that was part of the reason why I didn't, just feel the need to do it. Because they put on so many great events, man. They put on so many great events that I'm gonna, make picks for the fighters I really know about in events that I'm really excited for, and there's plenty of those. And also, for the boxing, of all the years for boxing to start, doing something like the events that boxing has planned for the rest of the year is pretty spectacular too. So we're going to be plenty busy with making picks. We're also going to make some picks today for the fights coming up over the weekend. But first things first, I got to get into this. I missed one. I completely missed one. Nothing to do with making picks, anything like that. I just should have. I don't know that I should have. I've never heard. I personally never watched these guys fight before. I didn't know about them. It was not a big. It was not like supposed to be a big event. It was a top-ranked event, boxing event run by Bob Arum, who really has not had the greatest track record. For his last few events. But they had a card, okay, over the weekend, and the main event was Jose Zepeda versus Ivan Baranchik. Okay, now, let me say this first. I appreciate you guys watching the channel. This to my friends, my family, anyone watching, please stop right now, and you can finish watching later. Right? You can finish if you want. Listen to what I have to say about it later. Most important thing, if I can get a couple people to watch this fight, I'll be happy. I've done my job. You need to go and watch this fight, man. You need to go and watch this fight. Cepeda versus Baranchik. This thing came out of nowhere. This fight came out of nowhere. And it was spectacular in every fashion that it could have been. I mean, this fight had everything in it. First off, they missed. I'll get into this in 1 minute because we're gonna get into this fight that we all missed together first. But this was basically they had missed even one knockdown, so really, which was a knockdown. So counting that, this fight had 9 knockdowns in it. 9 knockdowns, and it only went 5 rounds. The knockdowns were split almost evenly. This was a banger. A banger. What you basically had in Ivan Baranchik was a guy who was a slugger, a brawler, kind of like Baranchyk, like I had mentioned before, but this guy's no Baranchyk at all, to me, at all, but all the heart in the world, though. He's a little slow. He's doesn't seem as technical. He is a powerhouse, though, and he does have that same whole kind of game plan. He doesn't even need to get inside. He likes to loop those punches from far away. And when they land, they literally look like they'll knock the guy's head off. They literally look that way. So what you had here was this banger in Ivan Baranchik versus the boxer in Jose Zepeda. And he wanted to come in and box and put on his skills, stay at distance, slip shots. Well, right out of the gate, Baranchik just threw that game plan out. Let's get right into this fight. This fight is incredible, man. Incredible. These guys, and here's the thing. Right before I jump into it right now, this is literally why I have this channel. This is literally why. One, because I enjoy it. I always talk with my friends, talk with I'll talk with anybody about fights. People that don't watch fights will say, hey, well, there's this big fight. You should check this out. I want to make more fight fans. I love it. But the goal kind of, because you don't just, you're doing something because you like it and that's great. Actually, that is enough reason. But there was kind of a goal that I made, and I spoke about this already, is to kind of talk more about the boxing than the UFC, because the UFC, we're going to talk about that, but everybody does that. I want somewhere that's I want a podcast, a platform that's talking about boxing all the time, man. And so this fight is like incarnate kind of the exact, it's amazing this just happened too, because this is why we should be watching boxing, man. I'm even guilty of this one. I watch a lot of boxing, and that's what I'm going to try to put you guys onto. I'm even guilty of not watching this one when it happened. Seeing it that it was going to happen and saying, I don't really know those guys. It's a Bob Arum top rank. And look at what I didn't miss out because I've watched it later. You don't have to miss out. You can watch it now before I get into this. Okay, now there's your chance. And you can jump back at, looks like, about 6 minutes. I'm going to jump right into this. So, like I said, round 1. Jose Zepeda, he's the boxer. He's the slick guy. He's the much more technical guy. He wants to do that. He wants to do what he does best and utilize his skills against Baranchik, which is boxing, which is staying at range. And that's what he comes out to do. Bouncing around a little bit. Slow of a start to see if he can kind of figure something out. No, Baranchik is boom, right on him. He's in there throwing shots. He does not hesitate, man. He knocks down Jose Zepeda twice in that first round alone. Twice in the first round alone, okay? Now, understand that coming out of that first round, that's like a 10-7 round. That's like a 10-7 round. So this is a major set. You don't really get this, man. 2 knockdowns the first, that's like a 10, not a 10-8, a 10-7. You never get this. So out the gate, Jose Zepeda, it's like a lot of people would consider themselves, man, just pretty much out of the fight. But he keeps going, man. So round 2, Jose Zepeda comes out, and you can literally tell, because this was the moment that the round started, too. It took no time at all. He got swarmed by Baranchik in the first round, knocked down twice. And second round, he comes out, and you can tell that, I don't know if it was him or most likely, his coaches and his corner teams talking to him and said, hey, man, we got to slug with this guy a bit. Try to slip his shots in there because you're good at that. You can do that. Try to counter when you can. But this guy's coming for you. You can't use this game plan. I mean, look at what it did to us in the first round. So second round, Zepeda comes right out the gate and just like a bat out of hell tags Baranchik. Okay, Baranchik does one of these kind of deals where he turns. Now, and we'll talk about this again in a minute too. But when boxers do this a lot, right? When they're fighting, some boxers right in front of them, and they kind of turn their back as such. And they have their hands up, it's because you can get tagged around in the chin or, little things, but the ref's really going to just jump in to stop it. And boxers know this because there is a big rule. You cannot hit in the back of the head, okay? So this is why they do this. There's little things you can get away with in there, but basically the ref's just going to stop it because they don't want to see people getting hit in the back of the head when they shell up like this and turn, okay? Well, Baranchik gets tagged. He kind of goes to turn, and but it's just part of the Zepeda's combo. He's still coming in, and he doesn't hit him in the back of the head. He tags him clean from around behind and tags him in the chin, and Baranchik goes down. The referee basically, and I do not blame the referee, he did a great job throughout the fight, because this fight was just like, man, you couldn't go not one damn minute in the fight without just wildness and knockdowns. The half the fight was the referee standing there with either guy. Let me see your hands. Okay, bring them over here to me. That was half of the fight. He's having to do that, but he missed this one. This was a knockdown. He got tagged on the chin. And he rules it real just quick on the fly, rules it as a slip. Anyways, but that as a slip for Baranchik, who really got knocked down there in that second round. Anyways, moving on. Yeah, the tags him on the chain, kind of got him on like an uppercut from behind. It was, and so then later on, Jose Zepeda in that round 2 does tag Baranchik legit with a left hook, right? And sits him down. So then they rule that a knockdown, right? So that's a knock. Now he's coming back. Now he's knocking down Baranchik in round 2. Okay, and just try to keep up with me here. This fight is, oh my God, go see this fight. This fight's a mess. And then Baranchik fires back, and he knocks down Zepeda again, because Zepeda, had that knockdown they missed. Then he tags him with a left and does knock him down. They acknowledge that. Zepeda knows this is really 2, and that second one put a sting on him. That was as in boxing, as they say, that was a really cute punch, okay? Because he just slips that in there so neat, and he was not expected at all. And Baranchik gets not only knocked down, but really hurt. His legs don't look good. The commentators mention this, that he's got all the heart. His eyes are there when he's talking to the ref, but he's bouncing, and his legs look offset. His legs do not look good, like they're under him. They look like they're still numb from when he got hit, that you can't feel your legs so good. So Zepeda knows that he's hurt, okay, after this technically really second knockdown, or first, whatever. So then Zepeda goes after him to try, as I would, as anybody really should. It's not like, oh, you make a mistake. This is what you do, man. He was hurt, so Zepeda went in for the finish. And Zepeda was not too wild, but again, he's not the powerhouse guy like Baranchik, okay? He's the boxer. So he goes in, though. He goes in to tag Baranchik, and he's throwing some combos, and he backs Baranchik up to the ropes, okay, and near one of the corners. So he's in a spot there, and he decides to haul off on him, see if he can finish this thing. And while he's swinging, I believe it was an uppercut, Baranchik just fires one back, straight out of his heart. He's getting tagged and hit. There's nothing really too beautiful here. And he just fires back, and he tags Cepeda and knocks Cepeda down then. So first round, Baranchik knocks Cepeda down twice. Second round, Cepeda knocks Baranchik down twice. Then Baranchik, before the end of the round, comes back to knock Cepeda down yet again. So that's 5 knockdowns already within 2 rounds. Okay, this is absolutely nuts. Okay, and then round 3. Now, I believe, and I've watched this fight 3 times, I believe that round 3 is the only round that there isn't an actual knockdown, but there are still big events. In round 3, Zepeda, he has one real incredible. Zepeda's making good slips throughout the fight, but he almost knocks Baranchik down. Baranchik kind of stays on his feet miraculously, really, for this one. So it wasn't, but he does hurt him with this. He has a beautiful slip, man. He slips a shot. He slips a shot under, looping his head under while the shot's going away, and fires an uppercut at Baranchik and totally stuns him. Because this is the beauty of the slips, man. You're hit like we talked about with Israel last time. You're hitting people when they're not expecting it. When they're in the middle of a punch, they could even realize in that moment. Usually it's too fast to even realize. But even if you realize, oh, you know what? I'm missing this punch. It's okay. But I'm missing it, you're still not expecting to be hit back. His head's slipping off the line here, but then throws the uppercut up while slipping away. Oh my God, beautiful. And he hurts Baranchik. Oh, no, you know what? Actually, I think it was a knockdown. Yeah. There's no rounds without knockdowns. Pardon me. This fight is fantastic, man. So yeah, I guess that was a knockdown when he makes that slip and lands that uppercut. Baranchik, does this thing now that we just talked about where he's hurt, right, when he gets up. So as soon as he gets up, the ref checks him and says, yep, I'm ready to go. He wants to stay in the fight, man, and he's all heart, but he is hurt. I think more than like hurt, I think it's more of, he is hurt, but I think it's more of a thing of his legs. Like, he looked like, ever since that shot in round 2 that his legs weren't quite under him, and he's just trying to get back. Then he gets knocked down again here in round 3. So he does the thing where he turns his back, right, and puts his head down. This is kind of like if you saw the Conor McGregor-Floyd Mayweather fight. Floyd Mayweather used this. Floyd Mayweather's also used this numerous other times in his fights, because this is taking advantage of the rules of boxing. Not right, not wrong. You can have your own opinion about it. The rules are there, and this can be done to take advantage of it. I'm sure if all you did was run from your opponent and turn, you're going to get points taken away from you, and the ref's going to talk to you. But when you're really hurt, as a boxer, you can do this. And the ref, he separates. Everybody knows that when boxers, they're getting close, or they're getting hurt, or they're just tired, very tired, they'll hug up, right? They'll get in the clinch, and the ref comes to separate them, and they'll kind of hold on for a quick minute. They want every little, and then he'll get them out. They separate them. They want every little second that they could get to catch their breath. So Baranchik, anyways, he turns around and does this. This is a big sign that his legs are not there with him, and he is trying to get seconds back where he can get his head back into the fight, okay? Starting of round 4, Baranchik comes out swinging wild, okay? Wild. He hits Zepeda with this thudding uppercut that was very nice. Doesn't knock. This is the one I got confused with, because this is a beautiful uppercut. This one does not knock Zepeda down, okay? But it is very hard. You can hear how thudding it is. And what he does is Zepeda's got his guard up like this for the hook shots, and he breaks right through the middle of the guard and up into the chin. Just fantastic. Fantastic work. So a thudding uppercut, and then Zepeda gets hurt. Zepeda, he starts making little changes now, because I think he knows now Baranchik is a wild man. And every time he thinks, because Baranchik's been hurt now for a while, his legs are not really with him, and he's still, when Zepeda goes in, he still not only clips him, but he's knocked Zepeda down and really taxed him for coming in on him, just to kind of let him know too, like, hey, I'm trying to catch my breath, but I swear you come in on me, and I am giving it everything I have. I'll go down knocking you down as well. This is how this fight was, man. This fight came out of nowhere. Just epic. Baranchik swinging wild. So he's got this huge thudding uppercut, but then Zepeda's making changes. He notices because he's hurt, he starts going to the body of Baranchik. And this is good work. He has really good body work in this 4th round, which I think also turns the fight, because he's noted what's happening here. In my belief, this is just my belief, not like I know everything, but this is, again, something that the commentators don't really talk about so much. What I believe is going on, it's like anybody knows, and everybody will say, oh, go to the body and, take their stamina away, make them tired, make their legs get out from under them, putting water in the basement, as Teddy Atlas says, so that they can't move well. Everybody knows that. But I think that, you see, in this entire fight, Zepeda was more of a headhunter. He's not really doing body work. And then in this 4th round, he starts doing really good body work to Baranchik. And I think that it was because he noticed, I still have to be careful with this guy, but I do know he's hurt. So I want to do something here. I want to hurt him more. And I want to do it in a way that's safe. So he comes in like Baranchik thinks he's going to start swing, and Baranchik does swing wild, and he'll loop Zepeda, loop down under one, and tag him to the body. Loop and tag him to the body. And so he starts doing this, and he has several good body shots in this 4th round, especially for a guy who's not known as like an incredibly hard hitter versus a guy who is, and he's tagging him to the body. And then to end that round, Zepeda lands a beautiful left hook that knocks Baranchik down. So I've even lost count. Is this six knockdowns or 7 knockdowns already by the end of round 4? Okay, and then round 5, there's a big. Then round 5, it's like, okay, this has been a great fight with all the knockdowns, but Baranchik looks like he's just going out. Well, Baranchik now, I'm not lying. Go watch the fight. Now Baranchik looks like he's coming back. Beginning of round 5, Baranchik is a changed man. Obviously he's still hurt. He's a human being, but he comes out big. Okay. Big comeback knockdown for him too in this round when he gets going early on him too. He hits Zepeda, and Zepeda is held up by the ropes. So I don't know if people miss this. That is a knockdown. So when you're getting tagged and you look out of it at all, but you're also like, if you get tagged and you're not already leaning, you're near the ropes and you get tagged and it throws you back to where the ropes, you bounce off the ropes and propel back into punches. The ref comes and breaks it. That's what he did. That's because, and then he gives him time. That's because that's a knockdown. That's a knockdown. You're only held up by the ropes. So Cepeda, gets knocked back, and it's like, where the hell is this fight going? This is madness. So Cepeda is getting held up by the ropes. The ref gives him a second. Well, immediately after stepping away from the referee, okay, you good? Your hands, come to me. Okay, immediately after this, Cepeda goes after Baranchik, and it was the first combination. I think it was a 2-punch combination. And it basically nearly kills Baranchik. This was one of the more, for such an epic fight too, with knockdowns on both sides, times of showing good technique. The whole thing is hearts and gut, sweat, blood, and tears for the entire fight for both guys. But this knockdown's like, people want to see this kind of stuff. When you watch this knockdown, if you have any sort of heart, though, don't get me wrong, I saw it and I went, oh my God. But Baranchik, he lays there on the floor without being able to move at all. And if you have watched boxing, you know already about all the injuries that happen in boxing. And this was a very sad moment to be taken very seriously. But luckily, I'll fast forward right now. Baranchik, there's reports that Baranchik's doing fine in the hospital now. But he was laying there, and they just ran, the broadcast checking on him. The commentators are talking about this and how sad this could be, and say, oh, this is a good sign. They were saying, hey, it's a good sign that he's able to open his mouth on his own after 5-7 minutes too on the floor without doing anything. And they're like, oh, at least he can open his mouth now so they can take the mouthpiece out. He couldn't move his arms, anything. They kind of get him where he goes, oh, okay, he looks completely out of it, but he nods his head. They go, okay, that's good. Then they take him to sit him up on the bench. Now, when they take him, they're holding him, helping his arms, and he's got his gloves on, and he's like this. And this is a bad sign, they're holding him like this by under his arms to pick him up and sit him like I'm sitting on a bench, okay? Then they let go of his arms, and his arms just stay like this. And his head just he doesn't know where he is. It was very concerning. And that was the fight, and Cepeda gets the win. But very concerning. Because here's another thing I'll touch on really quick that some people do not know, is that with boxing glove, right, when you fight in the street, your bare fists, okay, or the UFC, they go, oh, they got the smaller gloves, and it does cover your knuckles. That, certainly those gloves, but even fuck that, even your bare fists in the street, you can get cut a lot easier. That is all. The only thing, people would think, oh, it's more dangerous to get hit if you had a choice and you had Mike Tyson or you had some monster that it said, listen, this guy's going to hit you one time in the head and you're going to let him. And then you ask me, do you want him to be bare-fisted, or do you want him to put on these big 16-ounce boxing gloves or 14-ounce boxing gloves? You know, I'm quite literally, and you might get knocked out, especially by a monster like that. Even in normal, you might get knocked out, but maybe not. I'm gonna say, give me his bare fists, absolutely, because the bare fist and the knuckles, people think, oh my God, you got the cushion and gloves, so this is harder. It is not harder. Do not make a mistake here. The only more dangerous thing about knuckles and or the smaller padded UFC gloves is that you can be cut easier. And it makes sense because of the knuckles, because there's not, and for bare knuckle, for the UFC gloves, because there's not much over them. And then the fingers and all of this is exposed as well on these knuckles. So you can be cut easier, and that is all. It's like to have a challenge for you. If you have a wall, right? You go to a concrete or a brick wall. Take a boxing glove with you. Now, hit that brick wall as hard as you can, as you think that is safe for you to not break your own wrist, right? Against this wall. Hit it as hard as you can with the boxing glove. When you hit it with the boxing glove, you will be able to smack the hell out of that concrete wall with this highly padded boxing glove. You will be able to put so much more pressure into it safely without hurting your hand, okay? Now punch the wall with your bare hand or these smaller gloves. If you tried, here's another interesting thing. If you tried to really hard to hit it just as hard, you still wouldn't, because your mind would protect you subconsciously, knowing I'm gonna break my knuckles or my wrist doing that. So don't think, that with all the UFC, there's a reason, hey, of course there's injuries, man. It's combat sports. But there's a reason why people die all the time in boxing, right? There's a reason that boxers die all the time and get quite noticeably life-altering changes to them in their speech and things like that, way more than the UFC fighters. I'm not even sure that there's been an MMA fighter in a big organization of any sort, UFC, Bellator, one. I could be wrong, but I'm not even sure that there's one that has died of injuries sustained in the octagon. Boxers die all the time. And what I mean by this, because boxing's been around for a long time, is it used to be really bad, and still to this day, you have multiple deaths every single calendar year. So knowing that, this was scary to see. But an absolutely incredible fight. Incredible by these guys. And Jose Zepeda, I guess, is now the WBC contender. He's now the contender for the WBC belt, which is really cool. These guys are 140 pounds. I need to check this. There's a boxer I really like, Regis Prograis, and I believe that he's right around this weight. I think he's a little bit heavier than these guys. I think he's slightly heavier than these guys, but I think that he's right around this weight. That would be awesome. But anyway, now Jose Zepeda is going to get a title shot because he is the #1 contender for the WBC title. All right, so go check that fight out, please. Sorry I ranted for a half an hour. I think it was worth it. I just want people to go and see this fight because these are guys you didn't know of, guys I didn't know of. And this fight is absolutely epic. It's not that this is a really good fight in a while, or it's cool that it was a good fight and we didn't see that coming. This could be put, I don't want to jump to conclusions, this could be put in my top 10 fights of all time. On the lower end of the top 10 of all time. This fight was so great. And I heard people saying this, comparing this to Gaddy and Ward and Corrales, Castillo. Let's maybe slow down on that just a little bit, because there's always recency bias, you know? And so you just seen something amazing. Go back and watch those fights. I'm not prepared to put that in the same ilk of bravado as those. I'm not bravado, just how great the fights were. And those guys too, in both of those fights, are a lot more. Those fights are much more competitive, because they both are a lot more. All four of those guys we mentioned in those two fights, of Gaddy, Ward, and Corrales, Castillo, those are my top two fights maybe of all time. And those guys are all heart. These guys were all heart. But the difference is those guys were very seasoned boxers. They knew what they were doing. And you saw slugging it out, and you saw equal parts wittiness and what they were doing to survive without it looking like that, without them run. Anyways, I wouldn't put this fight all the way up there with them, but I really would, and I believe in weeks from now even still, put this in my top 10. So go check this fight out, man. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And now, real quick, we'll get into the upcoming fights. So for boxing, just real quick, they actually do have. You know what? I wasn't gonna do this because boxing puts on so many events again, man. And a lot of them are just they end up being duds. But you know the ones that will be good though. And they do deliver. They almost always do deliver. But they put on a lot of ones that end up becoming duds. But you know what? I thought that this Baranchik Cepeda fight would be like that. So what I'm actually going to do is, as a shout out to that fight that was so epic, I'm just going to mention there is something, if you want to check it out, on Friday, October 9th. Emmanuel Navarrete versus Ruben Villa. And yeah, that's on Friday, October 9th. I'm not even sure that the network of that. That's the other problem with boxing we've talked about with the promotions. If it's not a big fight, you can't go through all these. There's so many, man. And you don't know if it's going to be on ESPN Plus, if it's going to be on DAZN, if it's going to be on Showtime, if it's going to be independently through Paramount or some weird, thing. That's why it's hard to keep up with that stuff. But then on the 10th, you have Sergey Lipinets versus someone's name who I'm going to butcher here. Okay, Kadrilo Abdukorov. Okay, I think I got the last one. Abdukorov. I was going to say, I checked into this fight, obviously, as I'm butchering these guys' names. I'm so sorry. I'm not too familiar with them, but again, just to look up some of the upcoming fights for you guys to check out. I did look into these guys a bit. This one, not so much the October 9th one, but this one that's on October 10th on Saturday, looks like it could be a pretty good fight, because these guys are actually fighting for the interim spot for the IBF title. And interestingly enough, Sergey Lipinets is 16-1, and the other guy is 17-0. So this is thankfully not a kind of a can versus an up-and-comer, as you see a lot in boxing. These are two guys that appear to be, they've both had 17 professional fights, and one's undefeated, and the other guy has only lost one fight. So that could be a really good fight. I bet you that fight is incredibly competitive, even regardless of knowing these guys. Just from looking at those records, knowing that they're fighting for an interim spot to be a title contender, and knowing that one guy's undefeated, doesn't want to go, and the other guy has only one loss and is right there and wants to beat this undefeated guy and not get those two losses and slowly just... Not even slowly. If he had two losses, then it's a very fast road to becoming you're kind of out of the talks of things, for a while at least. Now, on Saturday, October 10th, the UFC is putting on a fight card. This card I'm going to watch. This card we will make some picks on. I'm going to make 2 picks for this card right now. So, The upcoming event on the 10th for UFC Fight Island 7 or whatever number it is, I don't know. It's going to be Marlon Moraes versus Corey Sanderhagen, I'm sorry, versus Marlon Moraes. And then under that fight is going to be Edson Barboza versus Amir Khani. Now, here's my picks for this. I'm going to go Marlon Moraes over Sanderhagen and Barboza over Amir Khani. Now, Marlon Moraes, when I'm looking at the odds here, I believe that Marlon is a plus 150, which is not that significant, but you bet on him, you win some money. And I was surprised that he is actually not favored in this fight, being as Marlon Moraes is a complete savage. Marlon Moraes is coming off, he had that title shot at bantamweight for the vacant title with Henry Cejudo, who he lost to. Not a big Henry Cejudo fan. Just I'm going to throw that. I can't help but sometimes be biased. I'm really going to try not to, but to help, I'm also going to put things out there like this. Like, I'm not a big fan of Henry Cejudo, just so that you guys know that ahead of time. So if you are, no, I might be a little biased. But anyways, that being said, I try not to be. He obviously did amazing work to win that fight. But Marlon Moraes did very good job in the first round, and he was kicking the hell out of his legs. He is always, in every fight that he is in, he's very competitive. And up to that point, he was just destroying everyone, first off. So then he comes off of that loss where he looked very good for him in the first round. And then it was this weird thing. Henry put him in the clinch, and which happens, but Marlon sat there just allowing himself to be clinched and kneed in his stomach to death. That was a bizarre fight. Anyways, Marlon Moraes then goes on to fight his last fight, which was against Jose Aldo. And a lot of people thought Jose Aldo won that fight. I also, just earlier this morning, rewatched that fight. I'm not even going to say that, I'm not even going to say who I think should have won the fight. I think the more important, I'm not going to say it because I'm not even convinced. That fight is very close, okay? Marlon owns that first round. Jose looks good in the third going out. And that second round is a toss-up, man. I don't care what anybody says. You can have your guy. I do it too, right? I do it too, where you have really close fights, and if you want someone to win that fight, and you're not just watching two guys and seeing what happens. If you're very invested in one of the fighters winning, it's very hard not to be biased. We all have to be realistic about this. So I'm not even going to say who I think won that fight, but I think that the more important point, anyway, than who I would think of won that fight is that fight is a toss-up, man. So Dana said that, and a lot of people, in fairness, said that they thought Jose Aldo won that fight. But it was not given to Jose Aldo. They gave the nod to Marlon Moraes, okay? And so he is coming off of a win. So he's coming from showing a pretty good account of himself in the beginning. A very good account of himself in the beginning of the title fight with Henry Cejudo, but which he went on to lose that fight and he got stopped. And then he goes on to fight Jose Aldo, who did move down to bantamweight. Jose Aldo's a featherweight, moved down to bantamweight for this. So that gets a little iffy too. He's not the same Jose Aldo, but he's still a great fighter. And most people thought he won that fight. So he did actually look very good at bantamweight, Jose Aldo. But Marlon Moraes got the nod. So he's coming off of a win, right? Corey Sanderhagen, he's coming off of a loss to Aljamain Sterling. Now, here's my take on this and how I'm making a pick. One, I'm surprised Marlon's the underdog, so it's a good gambling bet. It's a good pick to make if you want to make some money, because he is actually an underdog when I don't believe he even should be. Corey Marlon's coming off a win. Whether you'd like it or not, it's a win. That's what they gave him. Corey Sanderhagen, and his one before that's Title Shot. Corey Sanderhagen was an incredibly impressive talent coming up, and I believe that he was undefeated, or he only had one loss. I think he was even undefeated when he then fought Aljamain Sterling. Okay, and so with Aljamain Sterling, you got his push into the upper tier of people. Now, when a fighter's undefeated for a while, there's always only two explanations for this. Either the guy will go on to be undefeated, which is very rare, and that they are a great, right? Or even that might take a loss somewhere down the road, but they kind of come back. But what happens actually a lot of times is that people are undefeated in boxing and UFC, is that people are undefeated for a while, then they get a loss, and especially if it's a bad loss, which in my opinion, Corey Sanderhagen lost badly to Aljamain Sterling. He basically, Aljo basically just walked across the octagon, put his hands on him, and coiled around him like a snake and submitted him in like 30-something seconds. So that's a bad loss. One, that deflates your confidence from being an undefeated guy on the rise, right? Totally deflates your confidence. Now you have to fight an absolute monster in Marlon Moraes, who is not coming off of a loss. And then here's my last tidbit for it, is that they're both good strikers, right? They're both good kickboxers. It will be a kickboxing sort of fight. I think Marlon has an edge, but that's my opinion. I could be wrong. They're both very good there. However, you saw Corey Sanderhagen get immediately submitted before he could do anything, even land one punch at all, immediately and easily get submitted by Aljamain Sterling, who does have fantastic jiu-jitsu, right, Aljo, but Corey got submitted just with such ease. Here's the thing that people know: Marlon Moraes is a great striker and a very strong guy. He also has very good submissions. He submitted a Sun Sao, who's I believe a black belt, a brilliant jiu-jitsu guy, and he submitted him. So he's got good submissions. I think that this could even end in a submission. I think either Marlon, I think they start off on their feet, and if Marlon's comfortable there and winning, then he wins the fight that way. And I think that if it starts going south at all for him, he no doubt, him and his team just watched the last Corey Sanderhagen fight and said, hey, this guy doesn't really know too much what he's doing yet on the ground. He's still a little green on the ground. Let's submit him. So I'm very surprised, actually. So I'm picking Marlon for that, Marlon Moraes. And the fight after that, Barboza and Americani, yeah, I'm going Barboza. I'm going Barboza because he's a veteran of the game. I'm going Barboza because of those incredible kicks. I know Americani is a very good fighter, but he's not exactly like this war horse on the rise. He's got his losses too, even though he's a very good. This will be a very good fight. I could be wrong on this one, but this will be a very good fight. But yeah, and I'm going to go with Barboza. So those are my two picks for now for this upcoming week. And I'm starting the board, by the way. We're getting the whole... We're getting a whole little space for the podcast, and I'm starting the board with all the picks, all the previous picks, wins, losses, and we'll get a percentage going after we get a few of these things in, though. I am going to try to gamble on this Marlon Moraes fight, but I've been having problems with the MyBookie app, which I just went on to give raving reviews last time, but so... anyways, I will try to do that. And then the last thing of note is that we are going to obviously talk more about this coming up, for next week. But on October 17th, just 2 weeks away now, is Vasili Lomanchenko versus Tafimo Lopez. I'm betting on this fight. I'll tell you right now that I'm picking Vasili Lomanchenko to win this fight. But we're going to dig into that fight more, dig into both guys, and I do think that it will be a very good fight. Also, this is possibly my most anticipated boxing fight of this entire year, is this Lomanchenko fight. Yeah, I mean, Lomanchenko, then just a quick rundown, we're going to get into this more next time, but before we go here, Lomanchenko's 14-1 in professional career, and Tafimo Lopez is 15-0. But that's very deceiving, because Tafimo Lopez is a young kid from Brooklyn. Shout out to New York. That's awesome. And he is an awesome boxer. He is an amazing guy, but he's 15-0 in professional fights. Now, Vasili is 14-1, so that's also just 15 professional fights. Vasili Lomanchenko, check out his amateur record for me. First off, he's an Olympian boxer, okay? He's won gold in the Olympics for boxing before. He's done a bit of everything. He's even done some wrestling. He's grew up his entire life with his dad coaching him to be this incredible boxer. Literally, his dad has, if you could make a guy in a lab to become a incredible boxer, his dad has put his focus of his entire life into making Vasili this incredible boxer. Check out his amateur record for me, because that 14-1, that 15 professional fights, very deceiving. His amateur record is something along the lines of 390 wins to 1 loss, which he avenged twice. So very deceiving there. And then even the last guys I fought, Luke Campbell is a really good boxer out of England, and everybody was really high on him. Okay, he's a really he was kind of getting all the hype from the English fans coming into that fight, which was the last fight Lomanchenko had. And he put on a good show for himself. Lomanchenko won that unanimous decision over 12 rounds. Okay, the fight before that, he KOs Corolla in round 4. Okay, and Corolla is a guy who's 34-6. Okay, so he's a seasoned boxer. Then, to me, his most impressive win, this Tafimo Lopez will be very impressive if he gets this win. But to me, his most impressive win right now is the fight before that, when he stopped Linares TKO in the 10th round, and he was hurt as well in that fight. He had a little slip up because he was owning him and started getting a little fancy, and Linares came straight down the pipe and caught him. Linares was 40, or is now 44-3. So this is a seasoned guy, man. George Linares is no joke. I bet on him when I usually see him fighting almost anybody. That's such an impressive win. And then Rigondeaux as well, who is 17-0, is a very, very impressive win over a well-known guy. And he TKO'd him in the 6th round. Tafimo Lopez, I mean, to be honest, I do have a couple written down here. But his most impressive, I mean, he has not fought great guys. He has not fought the kind of caliber of certainly of Vasili Lomachenko, and he hasn't even fought the kind of caliber boxer of like a Rigondeaux or a George Linares. But his most impressive win, which is very impressive though, he's got one that's very impressive over Comey. Comey, a 29-2 boxer who's a very well-known guy. I think that he took him out of there, and I know he TKO'd him, got him out of there early, and I think it was in the 2nd round that he took him out. So that was really actually quite impressive. And that was his last win. So that's what's kind of propelled him to this Lomanchenko fight. But we're going to get more into that next week. Thanks for watching, and we'll get the picks up on the board. I would imagine that we might do one more here from the workout basement, and possibly like one more from the car. And then I'm hoping that we're gonna have that area set up. I'm waiting on a couple things in the mail. I already got most of this stuff all set up. I'm waiting on a couple things in the mail, and we'll have a nice spot set up for us that we can be at all the time. That's a lot better of a background. And then also on October 24th, we're heading up to a friend's place, and we're thinking of maybe putting on, I got to work it out, I'm not going to make problems, but putting on some sort of thing for the channel up there with our good friend Gage and we'll do something on the channel. A silly video of us driving up there doing stupid stuff, boys being boys, drinking some beer, watching some fights. Or maybe we could even do a serious little short, like a 10-minute sit down talk about fights with Gage. He's quite knowledgeable about fights too. I try to, especially the MMA more. I mean, I've got a lot of great information from when I started becoming an MMA fan some years ago from him. And I hope that I can pass on some of that fucking boxing shit to him, you know what I'm saying? But do me a favor before we see you next week, hit that fucking subscribe button for me. Smash that fucking like button. And let's get up the ladder. We're a rocket ship, and let's get going, baby. Okay? And check out the other stuff on the channel. If you like silly shit, me and friends of mine, we play the UFC game. I wish there was a damn fight night game we could play, but they never came out with one. So we play the UFC game, and we talk a lot of shit to each other. If you guys like a lot of jokes, this is a lot more serious. What I'm doing here of just talking with the guys and actually making picks, talking about the fights. The silly shit is on the UFC 4 game. We have them split into 2 different playlists, so there's a little something for everybody who's any sort of a fight fan. God bless. I'm out.